The first thing you learn on Luna is the silence. It's not an empty silence, but a heavy, profound thing that presses in on your skull, reminding you that you are a fragile, noisy bag of biology in a universe that is overwhelmingly cold and still. For head of station security, Commander Kaelen Vance, that silence was a condition of the job. Until it was broken. The alert wasn't a siren. Sirens were for atmosphere breaches and reactor scrams, internal threats. This was the priority One Klaxon, a sound drilled into them but never used. A deep, pulsed thrum that vibrated through the deck plates of Tycho Under-Dome and seized the heart of every one of the 327 people inside. Vance was in his office, reviewing a manifest, when it hit. His coffee, in its magnetic mug, developed frantic, concentric ripples. He was out the door and sprinting for command before the second pulse faded. Command was a controlled panic. The main holo display, usually showing orbital traffic and solar weather, was a frantic swirl of red. Lieutenant Aries, her dark face lit by the emergency lights, didn't look up as he arrived. Vance. We've lost all external comms. Earth, the orbital yards, the Martian cyclers, everything. It's not jamming. It's negation. A blanket signal that just cancels out anything we send or receive. Show me, Vance ordered, his voice a low growl. The display zoomed out to a local space map. 6 objects had simply appeared from behind the moon's limb. They were massive, angular, and black, not a color, but an utter absence of light, like holes cut in the fabric of space. They were moving in a precise, silent formation towards Luna. Where did they come from? Why no warning? Vance barked. They don't show up on radar. No radar signature. No thermal bloom. Nothing. We only see them because they're occluding stars. Ares's voice was tight. Their stealth on a level we didn't think was possible. As they watched, one of the black ships broke formation. It didn't turn, it simply altered its course, gliding towards the Chinese-run Copernicus Station, a bright jewel on the gray plain. The feed from Copernicus was their last broadcast. It showed a shaky image of the black ship hovering directly over the station's main dome. There was no weapon beam, no explosion. The ship simply extended a tendril of that same impossible blackness, which touched the reinforced quartz glass dome. And the dome dissolved. Not shattered. It silently vanished, along with 100 meters of regolith and titanium support structure beneath it. The air inside Copernicus met the vacuum of space. The image filled with a silent, horrific bloom of freezing mist and debris before cutting to static. The command center of Tycho Under-Dome was dead silent. The theoretical had just become apocalyptic. God! Someone whispered. Lock it down, Vance's voice cut through the shock, sharp and absolute. Full lockdown. Seal the primary dome, retract all surface umbilicals, and initiate emergency power. I want all non-essential personnel to the storm shelters. Now. The crew scrambled. Vance turned to Ares. Weapons? She gave a hollow laugh. We have a point defense laser to knock out micrometeorites. It'd be like throwing a rock at a tank. The lead alien ship was now on their display, growing larger. It ignored the mining outposts on the surface, its trajectory a straight, unwavering line for Tycho Under-Dome. They are not here for conquest, Vance muttered, more to himself than anyone. They're here for extermination. They're sanitizing. The station shuddered. Not an explosion, but a deep, groaning stress, the sound of metal being tested beyond its limits. "They're above us," Ares called out. "Doing what they did to Copernicus." On the surface cameras, they saw it. The black ship, a geometric nightmare against the star field, hung directly over them. The tendril of void descended, touching the top of their primary dome. The main lights flickered and died, replaced by the bloody glow of emergency strips. The station groaned again, a sound of agony. But the dome held. For now. "They're not using kinetics or energy weapons," a young engineer named Finn said, his voice trembling but analytical. "They're using a localized field that disrupts molecular bonds. Turns solid matter into dust." "Why is our dome holding?" Vance asked. "Tycho's older," Finn said, a hint of pride breaking through his fear. "Our primary dome is 3 meters of composite and lead shielding, built for the early days when solar flares were a bigger worry than this. It's buying us time. Minutes. Minutes." Vance's mind raced. They couldn't fight. They couldn't run. They couldn't hide. "Finn, you said localized field. How localized?" The Copernicus feed showed it was precise. A circle about 10 meters wide. Vance's eyes darted to the station schematic on a secondary screen. He pointed to a massive, sealed structure on the surface, a kilometer away from the main dome. "The mass driver. Its capacitor banks. Are they charged?" The mass driver was a magnetic rail cannon used to launch refined ore into space for collection. Its capacitors stored a tremendous amount of energy, enough to accelerate a ton of material to escape velocity. "Yes, sir," Finn said, confused. "We were prepping a launch for tomorrow. But it's not a weapon. It can't be aimed at them." "I don't want to aim it at them," Vance interrupted, a desperate plan forming. "Ares, can we trigger a full, uncontrolled capacitor dump? All of it, at once, in one massive burst." Ares's eyes went wide as she understood. The energy signature, it would be like setting off a bomb. But a bomb of pure, raw power. "Exactly. Finn, can you rig it? Make it look like our power core is over there, not down here." Finn's face lit up with a frantic hope. "Yes." The dump would create an energy pulse brighter than anything on Luna. It would read like a catastrophic systems failure or a heart stopping. "Do it. Remote trigger. Now." The station shuddered again. A fine dust of concrete rained from the ceiling. A hairline crack appeared in the main viewport of command, spiderwebbing its way across the reinforced glass. "They're breaking through," someone yelled. Finn's fingers flew across a console. "Ready. On your mark." Vance stared at the holo display, at the black ship attached to his station like a monstrous leech. He took a breath, embracing the Lunar Silence one last time. "Mark." Finn slammed his palm on the execute key. A kilometer away, on the gray surface, the mass driver facility erupted. But not in fire and debris. It erupted in light. A blinding, silent, sun-hot fury of unleashed energy. A column of pure actinic blue-white power shot into the void, a momentary, artificial star on the airless surface. The effect on the alien ship was instantaneous. The black tendril retracted. The ship itself seemed to recoil, its perfect, silent geometry wavering. For a fraction of a second, its black hull flickered, and Vance saw something beneath, a complex, gossamer structure of light and energy, terrifyingly fragile. It was a predator that had just seen what it thought was dead prey suddenly scream. The ship hung there for 3 heartbeats. Then, without a sound, it pivoted and accelerated away from Tycho, its stealth field re-engaging, causing it to simply vanish from their screens. The other 5 ships followed suit, breaking off their approaches to other targets, retreating back over the lunar horizon as silently as they had arrived. The groaning of the station ceased. The only sound was the ragged breathing of the crew in command and the persistent, low thrum of the emergency lights. Slowly, shakily, people began to stand. They looked at each other, not yet daring to believe. Vance didn't celebrate. He walked to the main viewport and placed his hand against the cold, cracked glass. He looked out at the stark, silent landscape, now empty again. The mass driver facility was a scorched, dead ruin. "They thought they were putting us out of our misery," he said, his voice quiet but carrying through the room. "They hunt energy, life, complexity. They saw that pulse and thought this station had burned itself out. That we were already dead." He turned to face his crew, their faces pale and smudged with dust, eyes wide with the aftermath of terror. They weren't defeated. They were disappointed. They'll be back. And we have to make sure that when they do, we have more than just a trick. We have to make sure Earth knows. He looked back out at the silent, deadly beautiful wasteland. The silence felt different now. It was no longer empty. It was watchful. "Until then," Vance said, finishing his thought, "we survive.